So, welcome everybody. I'm Liz Fleming. I'm Chief Ecosystem Officer at South Summit. This is our 15th edition of South Summit. It is insane. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If there was a prize for just pure survival, I think we should get it. And we're 5 years in Brazil now, so I actually have 20 summits under my belt, which is absolute bananas. I can't believe we're still standing. But it's been a wild ride, and as Chief Ecosystem Officer, it kind of is what it says on the tin. It's kind of looking at the ecosystem, what's missing, what are the gaps, how can we kind of power it up and make it thrive as an ecosystem. And it's been a fun journey. And actually, most of these guys have shared the journey with us now over these years out of Madrid, where it was like a barren desert of an ecosystem, 15, 20 years ago. And now it's just a completely different story. So we're living truth that we can see how quickly things change and how the impact that innovation can have. It's tangible. We see it now. I think now we've the gray hairs and the scars to kind of see that, well, actually, this shit works if you just keep powering through, change is possible. Things have totally transformed. So welcome to Founders by Founders. This is a really special space that we've created for later stage founders. Of course, as the ecosystem matures, our offering has to mature and change and evolve. So we've created this forums, and every year we have forums in different stages of this tower all day. Tomorrow we have an LP forum specifically for investors going on. So this is an intimate peer-to-peer space, off-the-record conversation. I'm going to kick off with these incredible founders that we have with us, but it's your conversation. And please, apologies for the delay. People will be dribbling in all morning. I have 50 founders confirmed all the way through till lunch, so they'll just arrive when they arrive. And because we have a special guest coming at midday, that's complicated our security to a certain extent. So we're excited later on to have His Majesty the King join us at the startup competition. So that's why we have a little bit more logistical effort this morning. So we're going to kick off. Guys, thanks for coming. We have Juan Antonio, founder of Cabify. Cabify needs no introduction, but you guys are 15 years as well.
15 years. Yes.
I love this. 15 years made in Madrid. Juan was a very early stage finalist at the startup competition many, many moons ago. And of course, we consider him absolute and utterly South Summit family. So welcome and thank you for being here. Jack Murdoch, I would say, is new South Summit family. He's already a regular. We consider him an ambassador. He's been with us to Madrid before. He's been into our event in Brazil. So it's wonderful to have you there. And is founder of Oyster, a more recent unicorn startup with a very unique structure that'll let you get into in philosophy and culture, I would say, and everything else. So I'll let you tell us more about that. We have Martín Uran. Martín, bienvenido. Thank you for being here, a regular in the Madrileño ecosystem. It's blessed to have him Argentinian based here. He's a beautiful Argentinian mafia of entrepreneurs in Madrid. And we're so welcome to have you because the breadth and depth of experience in that group is phenomenal.
Nice to hear this is a beautiful mafia.
Of course, yeah, I almost. But it really is. No, well, it's like the PayPal mafia, right? They're all. It's like this really powerful group, and we're so glad to be able to pull from their experience. And of course, one of the co-founders of Globant, which is an enormous, huge international success story, originally out of Argentina, and now all over the world with a very strong presence in Europe, and Martin, CEO, running all of EMEA out of Madrid. And of course, we have Lupina. Thank you again, South Summit family, serial entrepreneur. Extensively experienced all in the banking fintech space, originally founder of FinTonic and now also senior advisor, which I can't wait to hear about because I want to hear more detail about that. So thank you guys for being here. This is the founder story. So I'd love to kick off just getting an insight about, I have a question specifically for Juan and Martín, actually, if you don't mind jumping in there. A lot of these companies are at Series B stage, so our kind of rough filter about getting into this room is about 20 million already raised, about 5 to 10 million ARR, and 50 to 200 employees. So that's kind of rough gauge of the audience and the people in the room. So I'd love to ask specifically Juan and Martín, because it's been a while. When you were looking at that Series B stage, that stage of about either raising 20 million or getting over that maybe 10 million ARR type threshold in revenue, what is something potentially that you wish you would have known at that point that you were going to use all that capital to maybe spend on and grow? And what do you wish you had known at that stage of trajectory in your company that you would now maybe a second time round implement? So whichever you want to jump in.
Thank you for the invitation, amazing panel, and being here with so many interesting people. I think that one thing that's very, very important is to be sure that you founded the company, even when you are selling part of your company, you still own that company and that your shares are your wealth. So you need to be very, very careful with that. Sometimes, I don't know why, but we, the founders of the company, at some point, we don't feel ourselves as the owners of the business. It's like we start like kind of a host, no? And the company is ours, and we need to be very aware of that. And in any conversation, any discussion, no matter how big, and when you start moving up in the series, you start dealing with, at some point, of course, with bigger companies, investors who have much more money, they are more important in the ecosystem. So sometimes you start feeling small against them, but that's not true. You need to say, okay, this is mine. I'm going to be the one who decides what's the end game of my business. That's the way I'm going to, if I have a dream, I'm going to make it happen with my company. So I need to be I'm going to be, or the funding team are going to be the ones running the company. And keeping that, it's sometimes I see that we let go our shares very easily, and then and you need to ask for things. Don't be shy. So it's like, okay, I'm selling. I have maybe a lot of shares, but what's going to be my compensation as the manager? How you are going to award me? How many shares you're going to give me if we make this or that? I think that we need to be. It's not about how you are being advised. It's not about legal or diligence, whatever. You need to put you in a position that you are powerful in that conversation. You are the one running the business. Sometimes, some companies that in the process, sometimes you lose money and you are not making money, so you need funding to keep the company alive. And that puts you in some weak position. But even in that thing, we need to understand that we own this game because we're funding. We are putting our flesh in the business. So we need to ask to be respected on that in that situation. For me, that's very, very important.
And I'm sure that can be so intimidating for a first-time founder, getting that far to kind of putting that round together and then kind of making sure that it's in the context that works for them. Juan?
Yeah. I really liked what Martin said. I'm going to build a little bit on that concept around investors. I'm going to talk about investors and about employees in the company. No? So with investors, building on what Martin just said, they have very different incentives to the ones you have. Think that if they are VCs or funds, they typically have an investment window and the best window of 10 years. And that probably doesn't match your horizon of building a company and align with your purpose and whatever. No? So you have to keep in mind that they are partners for a part of your journey. And maybe you can sell some of your shares, but you shouldn't sell the governance of the company, building on what Martin said. In our case, we put a lot of emphasis not on the valuation, but on the governance of the company. And that allowed us, years later, when misalignments became more apparent or more tangible, to steer the company through turbulences despite those misalignments. So I think putting a focus on governance is very important. And being specific on some of the points that Martin raised, you shouldn't be afraid to sell some of your shares as a secondary, get some liquidity. These investors are coming in with a liquidation preference typically, and that's also a misalignment between your incentives as common holder and their incentives because they get returns on certain valuations. So probably reducing your risk by taking a small amount of money out, it's a good idea. Also talking about the carve-out, above the liquidation preference to ensure if you're bringing into a company $200 million, maybe you can argue you could get 5 on top of that as a carve-out for the team. Those are things that you can put on top of the table, and if things are going well, you can get them. No? So, but keep in mind, the most important thing is protecting the governance of the company, because it's your company. It's not, from my point of view, it's not so much about ownership, it's about governance, because ownership, as Martin pointed out, you can always claim back through refresh option grants. You can say, hey, I'm a CEO, I need to be compensated with 1% per year, so a 4% stock refresh grant. You can argue for that. So that's about investors. Then about the team, the people who, Series B is typically a moment where you start to stand out from the crowd, and you will attract great talent. You will also attract talent that doesn't fit culturally with the company. You have to be aware of that. Someone who comes from a big name company maybe is not the best fit for your company if there isn't a good cultural fit. But the biggest message from me to all of you is that at that stage, the people you're going to have around are people who are going to build your company. They're going to become entrepreneurs with you, and probably some of them will start their own companies. In our case, from that stage, I think probably 100 people ended up creating their own companies, and this will be people that you will meet in events like this, and who will become part of the ecosystem. So those will become your friends, and you talked about the Argentina mafia. They will become your mafia or your team beyond your company.
That's amazing. That's great reflection, the governance versus ownership. No, and I guess it's strategic control and leading the direction of the company at the end of the day. And yeah, amazing to think of the network effects of your team. I guess you could see that in many different, even small companies. And as they grow, I can imagine the impact of that is profound. Jack, Lupina, give me 1 sec. I'm just going to heads up. Sound people, vamos a necesitar otro micro suelto de mano. Guys, I'm coming for you. This is your session. So I'm going to ask Jack and Lupina one question and straight out to you guys. Okay, so get prepped. And there's only one microphone, so, get thinking. Thank you. Jack, Lupina, so I'd love to know a little bit more about your new companies, right? Jack, maybe give us a bit of background on Oyster, because it might be less known in this audience. And Lupina, dying to hear about Senior Expert. And maybe starting with Lupina, and the same question to both of you, how did you see the founder role evolve through the journey and the trajectory of that company, of building that company? I mean, it's got to be very different to kicking off as it is to growing up, to expanding, and then maybe building out the professional network of people within the company. But how did the founder role evolve over time as the company grows?
Okay, well, right now I have launched just a new company called Senior Expert, but beforehand I've launched Fintonic. I keep having shares in Fintonic, so it's my baby, but it was 40 years old, so he needs to go and fly alone, and we have a great team, so it's great that they're doing really well. We both, well, right now, just for you to understand, with Senior Expert, what I did in 6 months, what I did, for example, in Fintonic in 2 years, it is because the AI, it's pretty easy now to develop many things that right now I have hands in everything again, so because I've started again, and you can really see, you can do many things with a team. Right now I don't have VCs with Senior Expert. I am happy not to have them because I I have them in the past a lot, and I've raised a lot of money also for Fintonic. And well, how we will evolve when you start your first startup, of course. And I was co-CEO with Sergio Chalbó, my partner, and my actual co-CEO and co-partner. It's a huge journey. In financial techs, in fintechs, we do have a lot of regulation, lots of regulation, Bank of Spain, Comisión Nacional del Mercado de Valores, Dirección General de Seguros, everything. So it's very regulated, and so you have to bear in mind that there are other giants, such as huge banks, corporations here in Spain, that would feel a bit attacked when you are a newcomer here, and this field is tough. But at the end, what I did and how I evolved is always we have to cooperate. And what we built, it was a marketplace for them, so they could give loans to no client through Fintonic. So how we evolve is with Fintonic, we grew a huge base of users, but we didn't have revenues at that time because, and right now you cannot do that. You cannot launch a company without a revenue stream. It's impossible. No, you're not going to have any VC that's going to invest in your company. But in our case, Fintonic is a data company, so you really need a lot of data to build the risk profiles and to, we built, for example, for you to know, like the FICO in the United States, it's for here in Spain, you know, your risk profile. So at that time, we have a lot of pressure. And what you're saying, you need to sell your shares because you don't have revenues, you don't have any income stream. It was really, really hard to, we had VCs, but also huge corporations. And all my board members were former CEOs of huge banks, Santander, BBVA, you know. So it was our board. It was just to be like in a bank board. It's really, really strict and all men, and everything quite tough because they want us to operate such a, you work in a bank, but this was a bit different, you know. We have more flexibility, agility, and whatever. So it was a great path to go, but that's why in this new company, I am avoiding as much as I can. Maybe in the future I will have to go back to the VC world and so on. But in this company, what we start is, okay, we start with revenues. We are helping seniors with their financial decisions, with having more liquidity with their homes and with financial planning. From the very beginning, we have incomes and, well, maybe, of course, to scale, you will need that, but all the things that I learned in the past, how we lost a lot of the power in Fintonic, we have COVID and we have to cut down with many lines that we have, the credit card, many things, because you know, one of the big things that, because it's not gonna go out of here, one of the great big things that happened, one of our top investor was ING, and was a huge bank, and their CEO left the company. Our board members left the company. All the strategy of ING completely swift. So they were not aligned anymore, you know. At the very beginning, I say, oh my God, it was like really, really tough times for us. What we can do, how we are gonna evolve. As you know, when you are a founder, you have to be like raising money all the time. And that was secure. That was for us very secure. And that time it wasn't secure anymore. So, well, we have to make tough decisions, cut many streams, people. But at the end, all went well, very well. And we're happy that and right now, Fintonic is still the leader fintech company. But well, it was
lots of ups and downs along the journey and adapting. Jack, tell us a little bit about Oyster and how your role has evolved, like since you started the company.
Thank you, Liz. First off, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here. Being in a room full of founders is my favorite room to be in, so thank you for showing up. I appreciate the question a lot because it's given me an opportunity to reflect on what is absolutely an interesting journey as a founder. So tell you a little bit about Oyster. So Oyster is a global HR platform. We automate contracts and payroll in 180 countries. We launched in Q1 of 2020, closed our seed round in February of 20. So we started the fundraising process, you know, in an entirely different world, right? That very quickly, you know, changed in front of our eyes for all of us. It's my first time as a founder. Oyster has raised $288 million and is above 9 figures in revenue. So we may be a little bit outside the bands that you specified. Hopefully that's okay. We haven't scaled too much. As far as my personal evolution as a founder, so in the beginning, it's 2 guys. Tony's in London, I'm in San Francisco, and in the beginning, it's two guys doing all the work, absolutely everything that needs to be done. I'm head of marketing, historically CMO, kind of a growth guy as well. That was my first chapter, right? And pretty effective. I got Oyster from 0 to $1 million in ARR in 2 quarters. Pretty good. And with no software, no code, from 0, no product, right? and to 11 million 4 quarters later, right? So a year and a half in, we were at 9 figures, at 8 figures. And so that was my first chapter, doing everything from constructing the go-to-market apparatus to selling customers, being on Zoom calls. I am a GTM organization of 1 person, no AI, right? We grew very quickly, and we were able to fundraise very quickly. We closed our seed in February. We closed our A in February of 21, our B in July of 21, our C in April of 22, and our D in July of 24.
You sell series.
So we're far along. And in the course of that, for me, the pivot was going from being this completely autonomous GTM force of 1 to building the GTM organization, choosing leaders, empowering leaders. But the interesting inflection was Oyster is a unicorn, as we've established, but also a B Corp. And I don't know, does anyone not know what a B Corp is? A B Corp is an external certification given to for-profit companies that meet certain social impact criteria. Only 19 companies in the world have ever achieved B Corp and unicorn at the same time, so super rarefied. And I was extremely inspired by the opportunity to, as I like to say, operationalize our impact, make as real and as substantive as possible our commitment to not just becoming a valuable, high-growth company, but also becoming an impact machine. And so that led me to do something that I never saw coming, which is to hand off my head of marketing Legos and become the company's chief impact officer, which we did not have, which we didn't know we needed. And that was important because as we were growing and as we were attracting people specifically who were inspired by the mission, it became apparent that we needed, as I like to say, a tent pole, a leader, in this case, a founder who would represent with that full depth and full commitment, the commitment that the company was making to social impact. And so that was amazing for me. Tony and I, my founder, would always embrace the idea that when the time came, we would hand off our duties and give it to the next best person. We looked, at a blank sheet of paper stage, we had both made the commitment that we would not sort of get in the way of what the company needed. And so it was wonderful because here I had this opportunity. So first transition is becoming the chief impact officer of the organization so as to give proper representation to the commitment that we had made, both internally to the company and externally to stakeholders, impact investors like Salesforce, Impact Fund, et cetera. And then more recently, both Tony and I, as of January of this year, have actually completely handed off our day-to-day responsibilities. We have a new CEO. It's given me the opportunity to focus on activities like this, where I love being in rooms with founders, sharing the story, telling them it's possible to build a company that is both super valuable and super impactful. So if you take away nothing from hearing me today, know that example is real, and there's a playbook there that you can follow if you're interested in building a business this way. That doing good and doing well is not a real trade-off. It's a design problem, and so I will leave it there.
Amazing, thank you. An unexpected evolution then of your role
Yes,
over
very
time. Thanks, Jack. Guys, over to you. Guys and girls, let's get into it. Here, please. Everybody introduce yourself. What's your company, what you do, and maybe what stage you're at.
Hi guys, thank you so much first of all, and congrats. This is Giovanni. Full disclosure, I'm not a founder, but I'm the head of sales of a company called Bizaway. I feel like a founder because I've been with the company for the past 7 years now. And just to give you some context about Bizaway, we are a corporate travel solution selling to basically companies of all size, a platform to manage business travel, basically. And we are right now at the Series B stage. We approximately are at 25 million, 30 million of revenue. And I would like to ask a question to Juan, because it's something that he mentioned before that really struck me about the company culture. This is the stage where really, if you make the wrong choices in terms of talent, you risk basically, well, killing the company or killing the possibility of scaling. Can we go a bit deeper in that and tell us if you guys had any kind of, I don't know, ritual, any kind of hiring playbook, any sort of, I don't want to say trick, but any sort of strategy to make sure that you have the right people in the right place? Because for me, for instance, as a leader, leading the sales team, which is a big organization in the company, sometimes it's really hard to keep the bar high as we scale. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you feel a founder, and you probably are a founder. A founder, I mean, a company at your stage doubles or triples its size every year. So you're creating a company in 2-3 years that is 10 times the size than what it was a while ago. So when I made reference of the people around you at that stage are your teammates, your colleagues, your partners, is because that's when the concept of founder, sometimes it's overrated because it's given to a very small group of people that are at the company at the beginning, but the company is built along the years. And the founder and the CEO build the culture of build the company and build the culture of the company. In our case, we decided to give the founder role to people who were not necessarily the first day in the company because they were the company. So you are very right to feel part of the founding team, because you are the culture. And your question is about culture. How we made a lot of mistakes managing culture. Me being an engineer, when they first talked to me about culture, I would shiver. I would say, like, talk to me about KPIs. I don't want to hear about culture. What is culture? Our culture was so strong that we didn't think about the culture because we were a group of people that when we met each other, we made decisions on whether we were a good fit or not based on our values, on our principles. So our culture was so ingrained on who we were and what we were building that we didn't need to talk about it until the size of the company started to grow beyond a certain point where we actually realized that, hey, these people do not fit as well with us. What's going on? Maybe we should talk about culture. That's what culture is. No? So we started to make decisions on hiring based on culture. We would get together, put our principles, our values on a paper, and try to make hiring and promotion decisions based on that. And those would be items you would not, they were at the top priority. I mean, if you found someone with the top technical skills but who would not fit in that culture, they would be discarded because we would learn by making mistakes that it was just a matter of time before those people would be detrimental to the goals of the company. No? So my advice to you is to get together with the team, identify what values or principles in your culture you need to put on paper and to be aligned with how the company will evolve and you want it to evolve, and make hiring decisions based on it, promotion decisions based on it, difficult decisions. When you have a difficult decisions to make as a manager and as a leader, be vocal about why you're making that decision based on those principles or those values, and people will understand that they mean something. But we made tons of mistakes.
And I feel also when you're going to hire someone or you have a team and you're growing a lot, don't ever try, you have, for example, a person in your team, you like it very much, but now he's not fitting in his actual role. Don't make a job for him, because you are going to regret that. Because if he's not good anymore for the company, you have to let it go. And I say it like, you will love him because you've been with him a lot of time, but then at the end, we learned that by mistake also. He's not going to do the best for the company, and he's not going to be also feeling worth it. So it's going to end really bad. So at the end, you have to say you're going to be much more value in another place. Right now, you start here with us at the very beginning years doing this, but right now we don't need it anymore, and we cannot fit you anywhere. And you have to be like really straightforward to that. You know, it's not your family, it's your company. You have to go all together and try to achieve a goal. And I really love Impact and being with great people surrounded, but sometimes it's tough when you like feel that they're family and you want to do everything for them, and at the end, everything is gonna get wrong at the end.
More questions, queries? Yeah, cool. No.
Okay, thank you. Hello, thank you for being here with me. I'm Fernando Martin from Dost. We are automating finance with AI. We have a platform. We started in 2021. And now, we closed A series last year, and now we are preparing for Series B. And this is, at this point, I don't know if this is more a question or a personal reflection, but you were explaining that you were evolving as a profile in a linear way, or at least it seems like there were not a step forward, a step back, and so on. My actual situation is that as we are, as a founder, let's say in English, I guess is Tom for everything. So you are filling the gaps.
Jack of all trades.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Excellent.
It was similar. So I am feeling that sometimes when a problem comes, especially now that we are having a lot of competitors related to AI, some new companies, they are making a lot of noise, and so I am going back to previous profiles that I was past like a couple of years ago, like CEO of the company and things like that. And now I feel that I have to go back there, repair several things, and then go back forward to prepare this B series as well. So I don't know, how did you deal with this if you faced this in past, and what would you recommend me from your experience, that you are much more experienced than I am?
I'll offer something. So the journey that I described at the core was driven by the question: what is best for the company? What does the company need from me, right? And am I prepared to adapt and change to that? And I do think that there's a difference between founders and people who are there at the beginning, because people who are there at the beginning may be completely motivated and excited, but they are answering different demands, right? And that is existentially different from the very beginning. And we wouldn't ask people, just to change their roles and expect, to flow and evolve. This is something that you can expect and demand from the founders who have a fundamentally different commitment to what the company is trying to do. And so my advice is live with the question: what does the company need me to be today, next quarter, next year? And are you prepared to transform? One thing about being a founder and being an entrepreneur is that it gives you this personal evolutionary opportunity, which is radically different from occupying a job, right? You're there providing a tent pole to the organization. It's a beautiful metaphor, because a tent pole is necessary to hold up the tent, and it also has to be tall enough, right, to provide for the tallest people in the organization so that they have a place. And as you have extraordinary people, brilliant people, it becomes challenging. You might wonder, geez, am I worthy? Am I deserving? Is my pole tall enough to hold up the tent for these extraordinary people? So I would say, as a founder, live with the question: what does the organization need me to be? And live with the preparedness to evolve accordingly.
But let me finish. But I am doing what you are telling because I am a person that I would like to solve problems always and take care of things. But at some point, you have to rely this part on your people. But the big problem that comes to me is that I have like a hidden cost with this. If I am going to one part of the company, I am not evaluating the company in the way that we are going to achieve this revenue that we are expecting to have and closing this series and so on. So how did you face this part of?
That's part of the math of what does the company need. I mean, if you were, as I did, shouldering responsibility for revenue, which is everything, and it's everything kind of forever, but especially when there's none, right? To get from zero to some revenue, you have to have a plan for handing that off to someone and being comfortable with that delegation. You wouldn't be able to do it if you did not have the confidence in the person that you're putting in that position. So I would say, don't do it until you have found that person that inspires you to have that kind of confidence. I was very lucky to find some exceptional marketing leaders that were mission aligned and super passionate, so that I had the luxury, to go and consider other things.
And when you are raising money all the time, what you are is losing a lot of focus and time on what is important, that is the business. So, but raising money is another business at the end. So, and sometimes, most of the times they need the founder there in those conversations, when you are talking with VCs and so on. But really you lose focus on what's important. So maybe you need a co-CEO or co-something, so it can help you, to deal with everything and to be aligned with you. Of course, you need a person, but you have to bear in mind that you cannot be in everything. It's like 24 hours a day, It's impossible if you don't have good people aligned with you.
A rule of thumb I was once told, and was very useful to me back then, was if I'm spending 20% of my time on something, I should hire someone with the specific skills for that something that will definitely do that better than myself. And that time you free up from your agenda will allow you to think about whether to put that poll or what other poll you need to put, so the company keeps on growing.
Any more? We've time for maybe one or two more, max. Yeah, let's go. Pedro, here, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Pedro Hernandez. I'm co-founder of Build 38. Build 38 is a mobile security company. We just exited 2 months ago. As far as we got, it was a Series A in 2023. And I think the question is about a topic that came in some of your comments, but I would like to make it more explicit, is what's the most important thing that you have to take into account when you are raising a new series, or we're raising money, you're going to a series following your last series? Because when we talk to advisors in our 7 years of existence, they always told us, take as much money as you get, right? If you are offered money, you take it. And then when you hear serial founders, you hear, we don't have VCs in our new startup, and we are super happy about that, right?
No, I had it in the past.
Right. So, and then you were talking about liquidity preferences and liquidation preferences, and every time you raise money in a new series, that means that you are moving the goalpost. And then if you could get a good exit with 100 million sales, now you are moving it to 500 million. And that's, of course, committing you for 5 more years of work or whatever. So, yeah, going back to the question is, what's the most important thing that you have to take into account when you are considering raising a new?
Be careful who you welcome onto your cap table. All checks are not equal. For us, we had a lens that was super useful because of our commitment to mission, commitment to impact. It opened conversations with investors for whom this was as important as it was to us. And so that was a dramatic qualitative difference They were not just writing checks because they wanted to have the return. They were writing checks because they believed in the thesis that we had. They were as excited to be right that a company could do both these things as we were, and that changed everything. It's like having different people in the room, right? And so always, you don't have to be an impact company to have this consideration, but always worry who you are inviting to your cap table. Worry what that relationship will feel like under pressure in a year or in 2 years or in 5 years, because you're getting into a serious commitment with these people for a long time, and not all checks are the same. So I would say that.
Yes, not at all. And all, it's very, very important. No, I don't know what you think about. You can have VCs, you can have also corporations. Corporations can shift, and maybe they're not going to include you in the future, or not. There is not a proper answer, but important is not the money at that moment. Important is the if you are going to be committed with them, what you said, like for so many years, that if you are not aligned with them, like for example, maybe you want to sell, maybe not. I don't know what's your strategy at the end. But when you have liquidation preferences, all the old like Series A or your friends and family, what they were there, maybe they can, if you start having this type of closures, they're going to be so diluted that they're going to disappear at the end, and they were the ones that first helped you at the very beginning stage. So you need to do what's best for the company, of course, but bear in mind that there were people also in the first years that they were helping you also, and you have to think they are shareholders also. So what are you going to do if you have this type of liquidation? Sometimes you don't have even the choice. Sometimes you don't have so many VCs that want to invest in your company, or sometimes you do. If you have the possibility, then think what's best for the company at the end, and bear in mind also for me, it's the impact. I am very ESG aligned on. You can also see which VCs, what they have done in the past with other companies, and that's very important. What was the relation with them? What happened in the bad times? You're going to have good and bad times. What happened on that time?
VCs should be pitching you
Yes.
what they're bringing to the table beyond the check.
Yeah, and what happened in 10 years? I have to comply with this, or, you know, sometimes there are VCs that they are not as tough as others, on deadlines and things like that. I don't know. It's really, really hard, and you really need to have a really good partner, wife, husband with you all these years.
I think that, investors are mainly financial investors. They're looking for a return. But it's important to do some research on
Yes,
them.
they are in financial, but when you talk with the impact investors, it's a different...
Okay, but usually, our business is about that. So, but that doesn't mean that you don't have values. And you need to share your values with the people who work with you and also with your investors. And so doing some research on them, talking with people that were invested by them before, understanding how they behave. There are always problems, things that you need to be fixed, how they are in that situation. So
what they bring to the table in that situation.
Yes, that's important, because who are going to be your main point of contact? Who's going to be the partner taking care of the business? That's important to understand the trajectory of that money in some way. I think this is very important,
Especially if you're welcoming to the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything he said is 10 times more important if that's the case.
Yes, financial investors, you don't have to expect that they are going to help you too much in building your business. That's your job. But you need to avoid them to make you to work more, to generate problems or troubles, or you need people that are easy to work with. Because, okay, you put the money on, and now let me work, I'm going to deliver on my words. But sometimes when they are part of your board, it's important to understand who's going to be in your board. Is a guy who's just going to be there to audit my business, or is going to be there to help, to make it better? That's important.
Just to bring some ideas or just to audit and you know, it's very different. It's changed that dynamic, no? While you are in a board, when you have only people auditing you, or while you have people that is willing, you know, to give back and to share their ideas and to advise a little bit, maybe, you know.
And there are funds that are very specific in their investment thesis, their own investment in cybersecurity companies. So they know a lot about your business. That's not the same as when a general, you know, VC invested who maybe don't know too much about your business. This is a different thing. So that thing is important, you know.
I think, I mean, all of the points were very relevant, and I agree. One additional point on your question about taking as much money as possible. The outcome is very different for the fund and for the founder. The fund is protected by the liquidation preference. It's a debt. If you get that much debt, they're gonna get it back. In most of the scenarios, they're gonna get that money back. You as a founder are not. As a founder, your advantage versus the incumbents is being laser focused, execution. If you start to do too many things, you're gonna lose your focus. Money pushes you to say yes to things you should say no. So having too much money sometimes becomes a bit of a problem for the founder. Not so much for the fund, because they are protected. You are not protected. And you will make, money allows you to make many mistakes. So if you take the money and you do not spend it, fine. It's difficult to have that discipline. So be careful with taking more money than what you really need.
There were many companies, founders that they went to the big growth, you know, the stock market, and at the end they lose everything because they start opening many lines, and they didn't focus on what was important for them, you know, what they knew they do well. And wow, I've seen like how to fail after raising like millions and millions. So it was, wow, what happened here? Because they told them, I give you this money, I want you to like, you need to waste it, of course, marketing, whatever. No, I don't need that, such a thing. I don't need to do that, or I don't need to open that line. And when they give you money, they want you to use it, you know, and so it's stuff. You have to really have a plan, what you need, and, you know, keep on that, being focused.
Pure discipline, pure discipline. Folks, it feels like we're just getting started. Unfortunately, we're completely and utterly out of time. So the good news is you get to stick around here for the rest of the day, and we're going to dive straight into our founder circle, so don't be running away. Folks, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for so authentic. Huge round of applause, please, for our founders.